I'm interested, though, Robert, why you say that when this equity market crashes, that gold, silver, and Bitcoin are all going to crash as well.
This is going to be the biggest crash in world history. We have never had this much debt pumped up. Debt is the biggest problem of all, but that's called M2, money supply. And the debt to GDP ratio is out of sight. So when it comes down, which it brings everything down with it, but you can't keep printing fake money. That's M2. And the velocity of money keeps dropping, but the debt keeps going up. So you and I don't have to go to Harvard to understand that's not good.
Because you freaking pricks just can't ever be quenched. Your fantasies can't ever be quenched, can they? You freaking pricks! When will you learn? When will you learn that your actions have consequences?
Well, I think it's already been triggered personally, because after I posted that market crash, the S&P 500 is really the S&P 7, and it's being held up by Treasury Secretary Yellen and Powell. So there's no correlation between the economy and what Yellen and Powell are doing. Now, I say one more thing, is that I'm a little strange in that I like crashes. So this next crash is going to be really, really good, but it'll bring down gold, silver, Bitcoin stocks. But the good news is a crash is a good time to get rich. So that's why I'm optimistic, and I'm very optimistic on gold, silver, and Bitcoin, not on stocks. The big debate is there inflation or deflation? And if you look historically, what's happened today is the nominal debt to GDP is a correlation of M2, the volume of money, times the velocity of money.
Right.
And the reason Yellen and Powell are scrambling is because they've expanded M2, so everybody thinks there's going to be inflation. But velocity of money, which is what Jim Records and I always talk about, the velocity of money is plummeting. People are not spending. So they pump all this money in, prices go up. Meanwhile, the Asians are catching up now. The ports are finally open. So it is transitory inflation. But the problem is we're stacked with this massive debt, and all it's done is bump up the stock market and real estate market. The money has not gone into the economy. That's the sad part. So the rich get richer, but the poor and middle class are getting poorer. It is tragic what's happening today.
So what sets this off? Do you anticipate that there won't be some kind of way to raise the debt ceiling come October 18?
Well, they can do all they like, but I'll just say it again. It's M2, which is money supply, times velocity.
Right, but what's the trigger? What is the trigger that all of a sudden destroys investor confidence, which is already a little shaky at the moment when investors really look at the fundamentals? But what's the trigger that really shatters investor confidence in the equity markets?
Well, I don't know what it'll exactly be, but you can't keep printing fake money. That's M2. And the velocity of money keeps dropping, but the debt keeps going up. So you and I don't have to go to Harvard to understand that's not good. So they're just going to keep doing the same old thing. And meanwhile, that's what we're doing today is actually going to kill the economy too, because you and I are now on, let's say, Zoom. So technology is going to wipe out more jobs. Like, who's going to fly? Who's going to stay at a hotel? I can now do more seminars in a day. I did one the other day. I did a recording in Europe. I did one in the States, and then that evening I did one in Singapore. I don't climb on an airplane? So meanwhile, they're trying to keep these dead industries afloat, and somebody's going to say, hey, it cannot go much further, and it's coming this October, because the velocity of money is now too slow. Savings are going up, spending's going down.
I'm interested, though, Robert, why you say that when this equity market crashes, that gold, silver, and Bitcoin are all going to crash as well.
This is going to be the biggest crash in world history. We have never had this much debt pumped up. Debt is the biggest problem of all, but that's called M2, money supply. And the debt to GDP ratio is out of sight. So when it comes down, which it brings everything down with it, that's when I'm going to be buying more gold, silver, and Bitcoin. The separation between the stock market and the economy has never been worse. You know, I'm just disturbed because the money is staying only in the investor market. Every time the Fed does something, the Treasury does something, only guys like me get richer. But the money is not going into the real economy. They're not investing. They haven't invested for years in plant and equipment. You see, every professional investor knows it's not when you sell, it's when you buy. So I bought Bitcoin at 6,000 and 7,000. So I'm just saying, I'm a pure capitalist. When markets crash, it's the best time to get rich. So I'm getting very excited about a crash coming because the better stocks will come available. Unfortunately, Michelle, there would be massive social unrest. That's what I'm more concerned about, because we have not reinvested. The Fed and the Treasury have only invested in the investor class. They haven't invested in the working class. And the working class is without jobs, without pay, without this. Their 401ks are going to get toasted, and that's why I'm more saying I don't like what's happening. I mean, I live in Arizona. Our southern border is wide open. In Afghanistan, they armed the Taliban. And then they took our weapons, they gave our best weapons to Russia and China. And now the Taliban will use our weapons against our only ally in the region, Israel. Something really strange is going on, Michelle. So that's why I wrote this book a while ago called The Capitalist Manifesto. We have to fight back against socialism and Marxism. I remember in 2000, gold went down to like 300 or something like this. I thought I died and went to heaven. I just backed up the truck. So when Bitcoin went to, let's say, 20,000, I was going, well, that's kind of interesting. So when it backed down to 3, then rebounded to 6, I picked it up at 6, and it's 41 today. So your profits are made when you buy, not when you sell. So if you're worried about your position, you probably bought too high.
So you're holding on to your gold, silver, and Bitcoin, clearly. Do you think that after this October crash happens, that there'll be significant appreciation, a significant rally of all of those assets afterwards?
I believe so. That's why I started this whole thing. I am very bullish gold, silver, and Bitcoin. But I'm very anti-Fed and Treasury. And I think it's very interesting that Yellen came from the Fed. And let me repeat, Lennon, again. The establishment of a central bank is 90% of communizing a nation. That's in this book, Capitalist Manifesto. I think we better wake up because our academics, our school teachers, are Marxists. And I'm not saying that my poor dad was a Marxist, but he didn't know it. He's a good man. He's a school teacher. But he didn't know anything about money. Nothing. And so that's what they're teaching our kids. They're teaching woke, critical race theory. I don't know what else it is, sexual gendering and all this. I'm going, hey, why don't you just learn to buy gold, silver, Bitcoin and be okay? You know? And I've been accused of being a racist so many times. And then I was accused of being a white supremacist. And I looked in the mirror and said, no, I'm still Asian.
Right. Yeah.
I'm a Marine.